Hello everyone and welcome back to the Great Book of Grudges. My name is Nathan and we're going to talk about Warhammer The Old World. Yeah, I know it's been a while, but the rumours are flowing once again through various different sources, some which are kind of reputable. You see, a lot of people, including myself, started to believe, oh god, if 10th edition Warhammer 40k is happening, it's likely going to be moved to 2024. That's what, the general consensus was, which makes sense. But something happened. Warhammer 10th edition was announced, but very early into the year, and is getting released in, well, summer. We don't know exactly when in summer, but likely going to be quite early so they can get as much money in as possible. But that leaves a bit of an open space, doesn't it, for the rest of the year? Autumn and winter are still going to be standing, and what can they do? Well, we know it is the 40th anniversary of Warhammer Fantasy, and what better way to celebrate that than to release the first new edition of the new setting. Something that people were dreaming of since Warhammer Fantasy ended 8 years ago. Yeah, it's literally been that long. Now, I know what you're thinking. No, it's not going to happen, mostly because they're not going to take away attention from 40k. They'd be stupid to do that. And generally, editions don't drop at the same time, which, yes, is fair, but it's very likely that they're going to want to get it out of the way now, as Age of Sigmar is likely going to get its 4th edition next year if the 3-year cycle continues. And let's be honest here, if 40k launches in the first half of the year, people would have already started saving a little bit of cash to go on to the next half. Unless everyone is literally going to buy Tyranids, which I am kind of tempted myself, but I generally play other Xenos factions, so yeah. Plus, it'll look good to the shareholders if there was a massive amount of profit coming in for such a big anniversary. 40 years anniversary is quite large. Let's be completely honest here. A lot of Warhammer fans, including myself, have more money than sense, and Games Workshop know this and will happily exploit that in a good way. We want this. Now, keep in mind, I don't know how valid these rumors are, but the sources do seem quite reputable, as certain things have been said in the past which have kind of lined up with pretty much everything that's been revealed so far for Warhammer The Old World. This includes the potential starter box, which we'll talk about a little bit later, and even some hints regarding some of the blogs prior to them being released, which is why you can kind of get some people going into full theory mode, or better yet, oddly specific theory mode. It's kind of weird. But anyways, let's start talking about certain things. Now, very recently, we've actually had a first look at some miniature renders. These are parts of items that we'll be seeing with the Bretonnians and the Tomb Kings, something that was very likely to be the start box for the new edition, and is looking much more likely since those are the only miniatures we've seen so far. Games Workshop tend to start showcasing miniature renders when they're getting closer to a release, or they have a date in mind already. And the fact is, again, we're getting monthly updates. It sounds like they're trying to hype it up even more to get closer to a release, as previously, through the other years that we've been waiting for this, it's been an update every 4 to 6 months, which, yeah, not ideal. So with the hype getting louder and louder, the birdies are starting to talk. Yeah, little birdies here and there, just casually mentioning stuff to people. We first heard about possible base size increases, which, was covered on this channel, because that's obviously something that does interest me, considering that I have an ungodly amount of, say, Skaven clan rats painted up, or just, in general, a lot of armies. Those of you who watch my live streams can see a bunch of my minis behind me with the display cases. But the most recent stuff that's being heard is the release date. So this is where it gets a little bit interesting. So again, a lot of us thought that this was going to get moved to 2024, but it looks like 2023 might be an option, where I've been hearing this more or less ballpark of around September to December, and that is actually kind of doable. You see, around that point, we've already got Warhammer 40k 10th edition out, and they're going to have to start trying to hype something else, aren't they? So if it's getting released, say, for example, in June, July, this is 10th edition, then by August we could see a trailer, or even September, and that would mean that we'd get it later on the year, but it would hype people up for that Christmas rush, wouldn't it? This is where a lot of hobbyists will buy for themselves, and, you know, a lot of them will have to justify it with their partners, mostly because, you know, Christmas, and this is probably going to be, what, a £200 box or something? Keep in mind that the main demographic here is not just new blood, but a lot of the old guard. People like myself, who started playing when I was a small child, and now I'm in my 30s, which is absolutely terrifying. Obviously, there's a lot of new fans such as yourselves, if you're new through Total War, for example, but yeah, they're trying to make money from the old guard. A lot of the old guard is going to be a lot of the high revenue coming in, I'd say. And yeah, the rumors are it's going to be around near the end of this year. I did hear from multiple sources, and yeah, there's one in particular which has always been kind of right, so I'm inclined to believe them. I won't say their name though. And if this person is in fact correct, well, I don't want them to get in trouble, because the thing is, we have to prepare ourselves as Warhammer Fantasy fans. We're waiting for something like this, and this could be good context to know in the future as we decide if we're going to spend money on this or not. You know, it's just one of those things. Bretonnians versus Tomb Kings as a starter box, again, makes a lot of sense considering that the Bretonnians have needed an update for a while. Their last new miniatures came out around 6th edition, so that was a long time ago, and the Tomb Kings did have a model revamp, but a bunch of their models never got updated, and their rules did really need a bit of a fix-up, so it makes sense to go for the two armies which kind of suffered the most. I mean, Beastmen did suffer a lot, but nobody really cares about the Beastmen. In terms of actual content, I've heard a variety of different things, so obviously we can look again towards Tomb Kings and Bretonnians, but we don't know exactly what's coming in that box. A little bit of a rumor says that it's going to be around 1,000 points per side, which, in fairness, wouldn't be too bad. It's a great way to get started. I really hope, if this is the case, that one of the rumors about older models coming back into rotation would be true, as, yeah, you know, still a lot of people like to play 2,000 points a side. I would be one of those people too, so it would just be kind of nice. But with all recent launch boxes, we can kind of expect the following, you know, some dice, so we'd be getting scatter dice and hopefully artillery dice, as, you know, artillery dice did have a lot to do with how artillery worked, and we're expecting rules to be very similar. Games Workshop did say that they were taking from earlier editions of Warhammer Fantasy and then some new stuff too. I really hope that we do keep the artillery dice stuff, because that stuff was a pain, but it was kind of funny. 1,000 points aside, like I said, is pretty good. The thing is, we don't know if that's 1,000 points total or 1,000 points after war gear, because obviously war gear does cost extra points. We don't know how it's going to work for Old World, but that's how it was in previous iterations of Warhammer Fantasy, where suddenly your hero, which was, say, maybe 15 points if you look to a Warlock Engineer, could turn into 75 points or even more. And that was by the cheapest type of heroes. So some of them could get up to 250. It really depended on the war gear, if you took them as a battle standard bearer, all that type of jazz. And lastly, we can talk about the rumored price. So we know that the Horus Heresy, the Age of Darkness box, released at around £185. Now, since then, there has been, I think, 2 price rises from Games Workshop. You gotta love that yearly price rise. And the rumored price margin seems to fall around £200 to £250. I don't know about this. It could be wrong, it could be right. At the end of the day, there could be another price rise by the time that we get there. Yeah, that's... I have a feeling a monkey claw is just closed up a bit. Let's think about it with Games Workshop's current pricing, and yeah, I mean, 1,000 points per side isn't too bad. Then with everything else that would be needed for new players to kind of get started, so rulebooks, you know, battle cards, I'm assuming that's going to be a thing, seeing as even 40k is now getting that, and, you know, dice, scatter dice, all that type of jazz. I wouldn't say that it's too bad, 200 to £250. It's definitely a decent price, half an army essentially for most people who play 2,000 points aside. More or less, you pay in current standard for around 2,000 points, you pay what? 400, 500, sometimes more depending on the faction that you pick. And obviously I'm going by Warhammer Fantasy standards with current pricing. I feel like 200 is a realistic number. I feel like really 200 is a proper realistic number to look at it. We're going to have to wait and see. This one is just very, very faint of a rumor, but it does fit up with Games Workshop's current pricing schedules. Now, we do have to wait a little bit to see how the price is going to be for, say, for example, 10th edition, as we might get something similar. Keep in mind, obviously, that since Warhammer Fantasy is so different to Age of Sigmar and obviously 40k in terms of playstyle, we might see some different prices. At the end of the day, this might just be a rumor, but it does seem quite believable given the source. And I've got to say, if this is true, I've got to step up my painting game. I've been painting a box a day, and I'm not really making that much of a dent in the backlog. And I need to hurry up. Now, it's still a rumor, so yeah, this could be wrong, but again, I really do feel like this is really hitting the ballpark. The most important thing for us to note as Warhammer Fantasy fans is, yeah, we're going to have to get ready. I've been painting my backlog, I know a lot of people have, but new models are going to come, and we're likely going to see a kind of system what's working with the Warhammer 30k stuff, which is going to be some stuff is being released as resin in Forge World, some stuff is going to be released as plastic. If you're waiting for new stuff, it might be time to start saving. That's very certain, especially since the rulebook is likely going to be only available in the launch box at the very beginning, which I think is stupid, but you never know, they might actually listen and do the whole core rule system for free, which is something that I believe they've just recently announced for 10th edition. However, what do you guys think about this? I know a lot of people are excited about the prospect of this coming sooner rather than later. I honestly want this too. I want to do a lot of tabletop content. I really want to do battle reports and so on. And I'm just waiting for Old World to come out, mostly because if I do it now, it'll be less time painting, and I need to get painting. But yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Let's start a bit of a discussion. I'm just going to start painting some more now. I feel like I should be in a panic, and this is how it's going to be for the next few months, I think. But yeah, have a good day, guys.